Hello. I usually don't talk, but I'll talk during this one. It's my first time gonna try this. I usually do Aero bite using 2-piece. If I use the reel, I usually start with 1-piece and then cut it and go to 2. But let's try this. Dunlop Aero Star Speed 86. It's 20 by 21. Unlike the normal Yonex pattern, which is 22 by 21-ish. So normally I measure 13 racket lengths, minus about half a grip for 1-piece, and then switch to 2-piece. But let's try measuring 7 racket lengths, plus grip and shaft. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Grip and shaft, and that's minus 2 mains because it's a 20 main pattern. And let's try this. Logo up. It's up for me. Maybe upside down. These rackets that have 20 mains, probably recommend you get some scrap string. It's a little bit difficult on the covered holes, so having a piece of scrap makes it a little bit easier. I do like a modified Yusuke method, starting method. Pull both mains, climb at the top. If I was doing Aero bite, I'd probably measure 7 racket lengths and minus about half a grip, depends on the tension. I normally do 1 on each side, but just brain farted. Just pulling the 7 racket lengths minus a little bit. I conserve on my reel. Always have to use my starting clamp as an extender. But this one I pulled a little bit extra, so hopefully I don't have to use my starting clamp. Usually on a new racket, if you're not really sure, you can kind of see everything looks kind of similar. Say you put it in the wrong hole. Looks a little weird. Big space here. Little space there. If you're not sure. So right here, this cross is going to be covered. So what I might recommend is get a piece of scrap string. And I have enough to pull my main without my starting clamp. So I guess I measured pretty good. So I guess you can call my knot a gudgeon knot. Gudgeon badminton knot. What I'll do is I'll make one loop behind the loop. Make another loop. I'll go through the loops and then back around on the inside. I like to stick my middle finger in the second loop. The third loop is the one that looped around, so I'll pull on the third loop. First loop sits. Second loop sits behind the first. Grab my pliers. I'll pull with my hands and just the pliers give me leverage. Then I can finish. And for my cross, I normally pull 6 minus about a half a grip, but let's try pulling 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and let's pull the same, about a grip and a shaft extra. And here I like to start on like the last or the outer cross above the last cross. Usually like to start up. So when I go across, I'll start under. So this guy is over. So I'll try to go over the main. So I go under on my cross. Then when I come out here, I'm over, so I'll go under the main. So let's try to see what happens. So kind of like the same thing like the Yusuke method. Pull the first two so I have tension in the cross. And then I'll re-pull the first cross. Add my knot. So I'm kind of doing like a finishing knot instead of using a starting knot. One loop, two loops, through the loops, then the inside of the frame, back around, pull the third loop, hold on the second loop, let go the second. Pliers as leverage. Don't pull with your pliers. Pull with your fingers. If you pull too much, you might break the knot. So I like to release so that the knot will sit. Reclamp so it's a safety. Then I'll release the second clamp, move it to the first cross. First cross goes to the second cross. So the clamps act as a safety so nothing's being pulled on my knot. No tension's being pulled on my knot. But as I release the second clamp to the first clamp, you might have seen some tension loss and regained. So that's why I like to release them first and then gain some of that tension loss. So here there's no real tension being pulled on my knot, or it's kind of far away. So I'll kind of release both clamps to kind of get the tension that was maybe in here lost. Then clamp. Something I never really did, or I always like to have my clamp next to the cam. I don't know why, it's just something I always did. But I saw a stringer from Korea, Waru. He turned his clamp and I found it a whole lot easier to weave straight across. At first it was a little strange, but I got used to it, I guess. So having the clamps turned around makes it a lot easier to go almost grommet to grommet straight across. It almost feels a little easier doing a 20 main rather than 22. Feels smoother going straight across. Right at about my side supports, I can turn my cams so they're kind of out of my way. A little bit easier to work with. And of course, when there's a little bit more tension in the string bed, it's a little bit easier to weave straight across. This frame, there's no real shared hole lower, so I can't do like the Aero bite pattern where I would loop around, then come back and finish, tie on my cross. Here, there's kind of no option. You have to tie on the main. Maybe usually at about this spot, if I'm conserving string, cutting short off of my reel, I'd be having a hard time looping around my Diablo. But it seems like I have a lot of string to easily weave across and wrap around my Diablo, so I'm pretty sure I have enough string. Won't have to use my starting clamp. So this covered hole is the one where I'd probably have a lot of problems, especially at higher tensions, but this is only 20 pounds, so it's not that bad. So I guess maybe I have this much extra, so maybe 2/3 of the shaft would be good enough. If you're doing higher tensions, you could do even less, but more than enough to go around the Diablo. One loop, two loops. I like to make the second loop a little bit smaller, so then when I go through the loops, I can pinch the first loop, put my middle finger through the second loop. Actually, I'll go through. When I go through both loops, I'll pinch the tail going through. So then here's the third loop. My middle finger goes through the second loop. I'll pull on the third loop. The first loop will sit, and then I'll let the second loop go, and it should sit behind the first loop. Then I'll pull on the third loop and then cinch it up. Good, you not. Dunlop Aero Star Speed 8620 mains, 21 crosses, 20 pounds tension. Normally my customers like 28 to 30. This is a newer customer, lady, wanted something a little more power and tension, so went with lower tension. Hope you enjoy. Thanks. Bye.